Hello all and welcome to Max Toy. Today we have a story for you sent in by someone. It's a difficult story to say the least, but we try to review good stories, bad stories, the positive, the negative, and advise to the best of my ability where possible. So let's get straight into it. Dear Max Toy, my mum has a terrible illness. She's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and I hardly recognise her. I am watching my mum vanish due to Alzheimer's, and there's nothing I can do about it. It's leaving me so depressed. My mum is late 70s. I'm her son, early 50s, and her primary carer. Okay, well, it's nice that you can actually give up part of your life to actually care for the one person who's been there for your whole life. Some people don't. Some people just don't want to deal with it. They understand what's going to happen. They've heard about the effects of the disease, and they leave it to someone else. So she obviously means a hell of a lot to you. I'm watching my mum vanish due to the Alzheimer's, and there's nothing I can do about it. She was diagnosed last year, but her condition got worse so quickly. My mum was always so kind and gentle. But now she's aggressive, saying horrible things at me and hitting me with her walking stick. It's difficult for me to deal with this on a daily basis. She doesn't even recognise me anymore. And nowadays, because of the illness and its effects, I hardly recognise her. I'm not sure what I should do. Do you have any advice? First, let me say I'm not a professional by any stretch of the imagination in the medical industry. I cannot tell you specifically from an educated and qualified perspective of what you should or shouldn't do regarding this illness and its effects, how long they last. I've just heard advice. I'm aware of the illness, of what it does, from my own experiences and my own knowledge pool that has grown over the years of me being alive, basically. I had the only sort of advice I could give you is from my experience, like I say, from my nan, who had a similar episode. I don't know if it was Alzheimer's or not, because she was a very strong-willed person, very strong-minded with regards to, didn't like to go get tests or go to the doctors or stuff like that. She was quite independent, very independent as well. So that was it was difficult to get her to say, for example, if you brought this up that she might have a problem, she'd deny it, sort of thing. So I don't know if she actually had this condition. However, she did have traits that are related to this condition. So the memory issue, getting frustrated, because that's what it is. Predominantly, it's frustration. From what I'm aware of, that causes these individual persons who suffer from these problems and this illness to lash out and get frustrated and angry, and yeah, sometimes it can be vented in a physical form, which is extremely unfortunate and painful for loved ones if they have to experience that. The advice I can give you is from, like I say, from what I experienced with my nan. So before my nan had left us, I was in my early 30s. She was showing traits like this with the memory loss issue and not recognising me, stuff like that. But before that, she was quite alone. She had no partner or anything like that. One of her sons had died. The other son didn't really spend much time with her, didn't go and see her much. And my mother, who was her daughter, basically she retired and moved to another country, so she wasn't around to look after her either. It's not to say the burden fell to me, it's to say that I took it upon myself to try and spend a bit more time with my nan around this time. So me and my partner at the time, my partner was very good at the time. She helped me with regards, because I didn't cook or anything. This was when I relied on having a partner and a girlfriend and a mum and stuff like that before I actually was single and learnt to cook and so on and so forth. My partner at the time, who was predominantly, like I said, the cook of the house, we would visit my nan and we would have a Sunday roast prepped, and we'd take one round with her because we had one on the weekend for us. So we would plate up another meal and we would take it around for my nan. So it was quite surprising to me at the time. However, now looking back on it, not so much, that my nan forgot me before she forgot my partner. But obviously, my partner, she knows she's the one who's cooking. She knew I can cook. She knows she's the one bringing her food. She's the one that walked through the door all the time holding the plate in her hand. So it stands to reason, logically, that she would forget me a bit more, because the last direct act of kindness, so to speak, was reciprocated from my partner, if that makes sense. I was just there talking and having a cup of tea and so on and so forth. So I was a little bit like at the time, but looking back on it, I understand why. So that was the experience for myself with regards to my nan. She also had that same trait. She used to get frustrated. She'd forget things, other things that she'd get frustrated about. What I did to cope with it, because obviously I wasn't her full-time carer and she didn't want care, I found it very difficult to persuade her to have anyone, because as she deteriorated, she did need some sort of care. So we started basically contacting a company which would send round a carer who would cook meals for her, do some cleaning up and stuff like that, help her wash if the opportunity was available and she'd allow it. Just those basic essentials. This company would come in, help her out with those things, and then she'd go. You could look at that, see if, I think it was called Help the Aged at the time. You could look at that to try and relieve some of the burden for yourself, to try and help you cope with the situation a bit better, and to give you a bit of free time, because obviously I assume you're becoming a full-time carer for your mother. So you could look into that option. They, like I said, they do some cooking for her. They'll cook her some meals. They'll do some cleaning up. They'll do some washing if necessary, if she's at that stage. Help the aged. Have a look into that. It was quite helpful for me at the time. However, there did come a point where I had to consider a full-time care environment, which was extremely difficult because, like I said, how independent my nan was, she was not interested in this idea whatsoever. Completely against it. Almost to the point she got upset at one point at the mere suggestion. But there came a point where it was very much necessary. The way I decided it was necessary in the end was after she started forgetting a few things, forgetting some people, her personality change, her behaviour change. That was sort of bearable all the time. She could have some sort of care to assist. The way I decided that enough's enough, that she needs a full-time care environment other than her home, was when she became a danger to herself. And I'll give you the example of the day I decided this. My nan deteriorated to a point that she started seeing things as well. She started seeing a man in the corner. She used to say, he's here again, stuff like that. It was really weird, freaking me out. Yeah, she used to say, oh, he's here again. And I'd be like, who's here? And I couldn't really get it out of her. She couldn't be exact of what she's trying to explain to me, but she could see people, sort of thing. It was bizarre. I found letters written in her handwriting of, I don't know if these were experiences in her past, I don't know if these are things she experienced in her youth or as a child or what, but they were pretty graphic, and they were pretty, or if it was an imagination, they were pretty graphic, and they were pretty bad, pretty horrible things. Letters just things written of, it's, I don't want to go into solid details because it was quite graphic and it was quite nasty, but the point is, these letters, once she'd written them, they were being burnt, and they were being placed, I assume, because I only found them as like tinder, as like burnt at the corners and stuff like that, where they'd been I was able to still read them because they weren't completely burnt away, but I found these letters burnt in her living room, in the waste paper basket, in the bin, so like a wicker basket, next to the curtains. So immediately, I thought to myself, if she's doing this, if she's writing these letters, burning them, putting them in a wicker basket right next to curtains, which could go up in flames, she's a danger to herself. She's a danger to, she lived in flats. She was in a ground floor flat with 3 floors above her, 4 floors in total, ground floor and 3 others. So she's a danger to the people living above her. She's a danger to... That's when you draw the line, I believe. When a person's a danger to themselves. And possibly that extent of danger to others around them as well. Like, that's an extended danger to the situation. But the second that someone's a danger to himself, there has to be a level of where you can intervene to protect them. So if you discover stuff like that, that's just more to compound your decision to consider full-time care setting other than a home. I had to go through explaining this to her. It was very difficult. Wasn't interested, regardless of the fact I was showing her the letters that I'd found. She denied even writing the letters. It's crazy. It's like as if someone had just written them, brought them in, and placed them in there. Completely denied it, as if she didn't do it. But there's no one else. There was no one else who could have written them. And I knew her handwriting anyway. She had the old school joined up handwriting. But I did in the end convince, and it wasn't like she went into a crazy ward or anything like that, a mental institution or anything like that. She went to a normal care home where she could be monitored, so people could just check on her, not monitor her all the time, but they could check on her, make sure she's okay. They could assist her with living conditions. They could assist her with eating if that deteriorated, if she needed help feeding. They were trained appropriately to deal with the situation. They were also trained with regards to her comforts, what she needs, what's expected. Medication could be monitored and provided accordingly and changed, and regular doctor's visits. The setting is key for the person to sort of be comfortable towards the end of the life expectancy of a full life. So it's difficult at first to try and get this across, because people have been independent the second they're no longer children. So it's hard to explain to someone that this is a requirement and sort of has to happen. But it is best for everyone. It's best for all concerned. Yourself, the person you love. If you deem it necessary, it's at that stage, consider it. If it's becoming very difficult for you, please consider it. It's a terrible illness. It affects person's personality and behaviour extremely and immensely. It's very impactful. It's very difficult to deal with. there's professionals that do deal with it though on a daily basis, which cope with it better. Plus the personal feelings aspect isn't there for them to be offended or upset, or because the person with the Alzheimer's, they don't know what they're doing, really. They don't know that they're upsetting a person who's loved them all their life. So yes, it is distressing for you. Yeah, like I say, you've got to remember, it's the illness talking when she behaves this way. It's not your mum. It's not your mum. So as the condition worsens, it may be worth considering this. I'd advise it. It would be best kindest for all parties. But yeah, I mean, like I say, I can't give you professional advice. I don't have the PhD or the professional. That's not my professional background, the medical industry. But that's my experience, and I would like to think that I did the appropriate thing. I feel I did. My nan lived longer. She lived a more comfortable life. She was cared for properly, appropriately. The only thing is, you may have to consider the financial aspect. I mean, if she owns her own property, it could be possible that the property would have to be sold to pay for the care. But that's neither here nor there. If you're talking about caring for a person towards the end of their life, it's something that has to be done. It's something you have to do, really. Just one of those things. I do wish you all the best, and that you have an easier period coming in the future. Like I said, make the decision when you think it's most appropriate, but please do try and make the decision before it becomes too much. For all concerned. But I commend you extremely for becoming the full-time carer for your mother, because you've given up a lot as well. However, you're only human. You're only human. You're not a professional in that respect either. So I'll commend you for your efforts. And if it's too much, which it can be too much for anyone, especially as it's a loved one, seek the help. The help is there. The help is there. There are people, there are companies available to assist you. You're not alone. It's a difficult time, but you're not alone. Anyway, that's the advice I can give you, really. Wish you all the best. And yeah, good luck. maxtoyconsulting.com. Any more questions? For more answers? Ciao, Bella.